All right, so I just wanted to talk about this, just incredibly soft culture we're seeing with all of our major sports in North America, the MLB, the NBA, the NFL, and then we know college football is just a complete mess at this point with 17, 18-year-old kids getting $2 million, $3 million. The school's not paying for them. But I just want to focus on the professional sports. So Adam Silver comes out and says during the All-Star break, I don't have an answer for the fan frustration with load management. So Adam Silver once again taking the side of the players and saying that, oh, they're human, you're expecting too much out of them. It's total gaslighting. It is ridiculous. And the funniest thing about this, and these players saying that you shouldn't expect us to play 82 games. This is the highest level. It's so taxing on our body. Yeah, that would work if we didn't have prior evidence 20 years ago of NBA players in that same exact league playing 82 games over and over and over again. And I'm someone that, back in 2012, 2013, when the Spurs would sit Tim Duncan towards the end of the season, they would, rest Tony Parker. Back then, you were actually able to call it rest. And it was kind of like your reward for finishing first in your conference. It would only happen like 2 or 3 games, the last games of the season, and the Spurs would do it when they clinched the number 1 overall seed in the West, and they already had home court advantage until the finals. Now it happens. I mean, we're seeing it with teams that are on the playoff bubble. We're seeing it 3 weeks into the season, and then it's so funny how all of these players just turn around and try and gaslight fans into being like, you expect too much from us. What are we? No, dude, you're making like $10 million a year. There's surgeons out there who literally, rearrange organs and make 1/30th of what you're making, but you can't go out there every other night and play because it's just too taxing. It would be like me telling an algebra teacher, this homework is too hard. Why do I have to do it every night? And it's like the algebra teacher's 40th year teaching, and they have like years and years and years of experience and knowing that kids can in fact do all of this homework. It's like, we know the human body can play 82 NBA games, but they're just lazy and they're soft and they want to gaslight the fans. And Adam Silver is the softest commissioner in all of sports. And he goes right along with it, and he says, I understand the fans' frustration, but they're just human beings. And then the funniest thing about the whole thing is when the fans agree with the players. It's like, all right, dude, you want a white knight for an NBA player making 100 times what you're making? I mean, I guess go ahead. It's just so ridiculous. And I couldn't even find recent studies on how bad the resting or load management has gotten. You can see this is from 2005 to 2016. I'm sure it is 100 times worse if they actually went to 2022. Every year it's probably gotten worse, but I couldn't see one. And it's not just the NBA players. You take a look at the MLB. I'll tell one of the funniest stories I remember back during the pandemic in 2020. So an MLB starting, really, I would say the 3 biggest babies in North American sports: NFL receivers, MLB starting pitchers, and just typical NBA superstars. But MLB starting pitchers, so they always complain and whine. They need an innings limit. I can't throw 220 innings per season, and then the next year they're put on an innings limit. They don't want to pitch very much. They get a sore shoulder. Well, during 2020, the MLB season was suspended until July, and they only played 60 games. And the starting pitchers were complaining that they didn't throw enough, so they had to be on a pitch limit because they didn't throw enough. So which one is it? Are you throwing too much, your arm's getting tired, or you're not throwing enough, you have too much rest, and you have to ramp back up, so your first 3 starts are like 70 pitches. All of these guys are just so soft. And then we had Clayton Kershaw have a perfect game through 7 innings. In early April, he was at 85 pitches and they took him out. And he agreed with the move. A perfect game, if you guys don't know, It's like the rarest potential attainable thing in almost all of sports. Like there's been, I believe, 23 perfect games in the MLB. And Clayton Kershaw at 85 pitches in a cold day in Minnesota gets taken out and then says, oh, I agree with it. And their manager comes out, Dave Roberts, and says, we're just doing it because we don't want him to get injured, and we're all about the playoffs. Regular season means nothing. Well, Clayton Kershaw ended up getting injured that season anyways, and the Dodgers lost in the first round of the playoffs. So this whole thing is just a complete joke. And then with the NFL, I mean, I'll be honest, I think the NFL has probably done the best job out of everyone, but you're going to look at the quarterback situation, and anytime those guys get breathed on, they throw flags, and it's just so ridiculous. But to be fair to the NFL, what I'll say about that if you just take, for example, Justin Herbert, the Chargers starting quarterback, like imagine he gets out for a year and whoever the backup is comes in, like that's 100 times worse of a product. Like look at Kyler Murray and what Arizona had to do with Colt McCoy and Trace McSorley. The quarterback is so important. The NFL realizes it's the moneymaker. It's the thing that, makes the games amazing. The quarterback, most important position in all of sports. So I do understand the NFL doing that, but I do think it's gone too far. I mean, you should be able to tackle a quarterback without it being a flag, but they have put a very high emphasis on that. So this whole thing with just sports in North America, and it's like the players use the same argument in every sport. You've got MLB pitchers like I can't throw like we've seen Nolan Ryan have like 10 seasons of 300 innings 2 decades ago. Yes, you can throw 200 innings. You don't want to because you're lazy. And then how about the MLB players unanimously agreeing and wanting that sham 10 inning rule where you put a ghost runner at second base, but the players want to say we love baseball. We want to play baseball. No, you don't. You want money. You put a runner at second base because you want the game to be over sooner so you don't have to play more baseball. It is all pathetic. And then the NBA, they all rest. They, every other game we're seeing these players with, they make up injuries, whatever. The saddest thing of the whole situation with the NBA is if Adam Silver seriously came out and said, listen, this has got to stop. I really think it would be limited. You can't stop it completely because players can still just lie about injuries. But what you can do is say, we're going to crack down on this stuff. And really, if it worse comes to worse, we're just going to open investigations. I mean, take a look at Jokic, the current favorite to win 3 straight MVPs. I think the past 3 weeks, they refused to play him on back-to-backs. Okay, what is he, 28 years old? What's wrong with him? Oh, we want to make sure he's healthy for the playoffs. Meanwhile, the Nuggets will probably lose in the second round anyways. But no, he rested those 3 extra games, so that's all that matters, right? Come on. I mean, it is real sad that Adam Silver keeps doing this. And then we also had this. The NBA is looking to avoid a last pick in the All-Star draft this year because apparently NBA All-Stars were getting their feelings hurt. If they were, oh my God, I can't be the last pick, I'm going to get my feelings hurt. I mean, how soft are these guys? And how soft is Adam Silver? If NBA players came to me and I was the commissioner and they said this, I would just be like, that's honestly one of the only reasons we do the draft, to see who gets picked last, because it's funny. You can't handle getting picked last. I'm sure you're okay. You'll get your $20 million salary. You'll be all right. But no, we've got to pamper so much to these players. It's just, I mean, come on. How much are we going to see of this? At this point, and then these are just some quotes from Silver. If it means at some point we're better off elongating the schedule to reduce back-to-backs, for example, that's something that's worth looking at. Of course, they've already reduced back-to-backs in their schedule, but because the players have gotten so soft, it's they're going to have to make the schedule to where there's no back-to-backs. So that's just kind of the current state. And then you've got the college sports. I mean, honestly, at this point, both college basketball and college football. College basketball, you've got these kids going to overtime elite or whatever the hell it is. I don't even know. It's really hurt college basketball. But I mean, college basketball is still good. I think the one and done thing, that's more of a situation where I would be annoyed if I was a fan of a team that had a lot of one and dones, because you're constantly dealing with true freshmen that are really raw and you have to keep teaching them the same thing. Like, I don't know how Duke, Kentucky, and those teams really do it, to where you're just basically teaching the same true freshmen every single year the exact same stuff, because they get so much turnover and all the one and dones leave. There are some pros to that because the players are very talented. That's why they're one and dones. But there are also cons that you really can't build any, team chemistry. And then, like, if I had a message to like a young kid, don't do that overtime elite bullshit. That's so stupid. You want to build your brand. You need to be in college basketball, in the national spotlight, but that's just my opinion. And then when it comes to college football, I mean, we've talked about it over and over again. That's the NCAA's fault with the NIL. I mean, it is so bad. And the best story I can think of it when it comes to it is a 4-star quarterback that was guaranteed $13 million by Florida. Florida and their NIL, they end up coming to him like right around National Signing Day and saying, yeah, we can't pay you. So he's forced to get out of his letter that he signed to go to Florida, and he ends up going to frickin' Arizona State. So a kid who's a very solid 4-star quarterback gets screwed over by a $13 million NIL deal and is forced to go to Arizona State because all the other good teams already have their quarterbacks for the year because it was so late in the recruiting cycle. It is a complete mess. I don't know what anyone thought was going to happen with that. And you've got crazy roster turnover. And then you also have college players and NFL players commenting on some of these kids entering the transfer portal and being like, I mean, where is the competitive fight? I mean, the second you get passed over or you're in a battle, you immediately just transfer. And that's one of the problems with the transfer portal. But I do think it is a necessary evil because, I mean, let's be honest, we've got head coaches signing 8-year extensions and then leaving the next year. Isn't it a little hypocritical if coaches can do that players can't? What I would say with the transfer portal is, the first time you transfer, it can be immediate, but after that, you can't be transferring 2 or 3 times. You're going to have to sit out a year if you want to transfer twice. I'm sorry, because it's just out of control. You've got kids just yo-yoing from teams that's so ridiculous, and it's only going to get worse if you don't put some type of limit to it. That's why I said you can let them transfer for 1 year, and then after that, I would say, they got to sit out a year if they want to transfer again. So there's one immediate transfer. But, I mean, there's just so many different people calling this out that are old school NBA players and stuff because, I mean, there's proof. I mean, these players, they're not superhuman. Players in the 80s and the 90s, in the early... See, this is a thing, resting, you could go look at several players in the early 2000s that would play 82 games. You tell an NBA player now to play 82 games, they'll be like, what do you think, I'm God? Oh no, you're only making $13 million, man. And then they'll gaslight me. Oh, you expect me to play 82 games? Do you know? Well, bro, if you get paid $20 million, it's your job. I don't know what to tell you. And if you're Adam Silver, isn't it your job to tell these players, hey, you signed a contract. If you're healthy, bro, you're playing. And the other problem is a lot of these GMs and general, people within the team, they will endorse players sitting because, they view the regular season as meaningless. They don't want a player to get an injury. If they're a number 1 or a number 2 seed, it doesn't, as long as they make the playoffs, that's all that matters. So it really is a whole full-scale problem within the NBA. And if Adam Silver's going to come out and say that, we're sorry, but we don't have an answer right now. No, you do have an answer. You can come out and tell the fans, this is ridiculous. You pay the money. How about the NBA players saying, this is what they always do. NBA, NFL, MLB. There's only a league because of us. No, there's only a league because of the fans. If the fans didn't pay, the owners, wouldn't pay for the teams because the teams wouldn't be worth anything. There'd be no one in the stands and you wouldn't have a league. So that's why. the league exists. It's not because it's a cohesion, but the fans are really the ones funding it. That's why you've got teams like the New York Yankees worth billions and billions of dollars, because of the amount of popularity that they have, the amount of merchandise that they sell, the amount of tickets that they sell. It all drives it. So it's just all ridiculous. And, I don't see it changing with these quotes from Silver. But I think they were trying to cut down on it like last year, and clearly that hasn't worked at all, because even then they'll probably just make up injuries